Okay, Shalom Aleichem. And Yavaldik. Here we go. This is Hashem's Baruch. Share. All right. Back to the Hilga Bes Yaakov. And we're learning about this incredible inyan of the Mekalel, this person who cursed because, says the Hilga Bes Yaakov, he wanted to skip the stage of Shmita and go straight to Yovel. It's this unbelievable thing. Yovel shechlavo ayedei Shmita. You can only get to Yovel through the Shmita, and that was the trouble that he wanted to skip. He wanted to skip. He wanted to skip that intermittent stage where you use your free choice to give it back up to Hashem. The great wonder of Shmita and the challenge of Shmita. Today there's all kinds of funds that you can contribute to support farmers that are Shomer Shmita in Eretz Yisrael. It's a great challenge. It always is a great challenge. Like we saw yesterday with the laws of Sfichim, so many things till today are simply prohibited that grow on the Shemitah year, whether they were planted on purpose or whether they grew on their own. Sfichim refer to things that grow on their own. The things that are planted on purpose also, any legume, any grain, any vegetable, all these things became prohibited rabbinically because there were so many people who were not keeping Shemitah and would claim that they grew on their own when actually they had grown them themselves. This was a problem going back thousands of years. There's Gemaras in Masechet Moed Katan about this, Mishnayos, and it's a big challenge to keep Shemitah. It's a big challenge physically to move from a kind of a capitalistic way of using resources as a form of an object of value, and to move to just receiving Hashem's blessing through the earth, only to receive from it, to live from it. It's a huge change, and it's using your free choice to get to a place that's beyond your free choice. It's been something we've been touching upon a lot. This is a question that Reb Nosson actually once asked Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. He said, how can prayer really make sense? Aren't I supposed to be, like, if I'm asking Hashem to help me do something, isn't it all about my own free choice? How does prayer make sense? And Rabbi Nachman answered him this amazing thing, which I think relates a lot to what we're learning, which is the essence of your free choice is to use your free choice to ask Hashem to take away your free choice. That's an unbelievable thing. To say to Hashem, please Hashem, tie me up, make me yours, put into me such a desire for mitzvahs and such a hatred for negative. Help me to love people. Help me to love myself. Put it all in. That's the essence of using your free choice, is to choose to ask for divine assistance, to ask for divine blessing. So the Shmita is basically similar to that kind of move, where it's hard to do, and it takes a lot of effort to let go and just receive from Hashem. Whereas the Yovel level, where everyone gives land back to their original owners and all the slaves go free, and these essential interactions are just reversed, and it all becomes revealed that everything was all Hashem all along, including all of our own efforts. It would all belong to Hashem only. And like we keep saying, in the Yovel year, all we have that's really ours is our davening, which is this wondrous place where It's one with Hashem. God's davening is our davening, which is God's prayer is within our prayer, an incredible, wondrous paradox of unity. And the one who cursed Hashem's name, we meant yesterday, he had a Jewish mother, but not a Jewish father. So he was in this crazy situation where he couldn't fit in with any of the tribes. And the symbol level, he just got upset about his situation, feeling like an outsider, and cursed Hashem's name. But he didn't want to embrace, and this is a problem we all have these days, feeling like an outsider in different ways. To do the work of facing this, do the work of asking Hashem for help, to be able to relate to society in some kind of a way, and to really let go of our expectations and of what we think belongs to us, and embrace the reality of Hashem's world when it's dissonant with how we would want it to be, let's say. And so he wanted to go straight to that place of Yovel. Why can't we just go straight to that level where it's all God anyway? Why do we have to first go through this kind of difficult step, the Shmita step, of giving up our free choice, of accepting things as they are, and doing the work of letting go? Lama tzarich l'shmita, he said, Hanu la'avodas ha'adam. Why should there, since anyway it's all going to be revealed, that it all comes from Hashem, then why should we really need any work at all? And this is the trouble. Like we said yesterday, the Rambam mentions in the laws of tshuva, we're all facing this with tshuva, and in Elul, it might come up in the back of your mind. It's natural for it to come up, to feel, why should I put effort in to doing tshuva if it's all from Hashem anyways? This is this idea that he cursed Hashem's name, and the word for cursing, vayikov, means to like pierce, to like make a hole in the name. Inyan Shem, the concept of a name means something that sticks out and can be recognized. Uvazora Kodesh vayikov, like making a hole in the door. Means if you want to enter into a house, you have to knock on the door, and then someone comes and opens it for you, and there's a whole way of entering into the house in a way that is with derech eretz, with respect and presence. And he didn't want to relate to the door. He wanted to just bust through the door, just bang down the door, make a hole, and just not have a proper entrance, a doorway. He wanted to just make a hole. And right, not meaning to open up the door in a way that is orderly and step by step, Shmita, which is to say, to come to Yovel through the long 50-year process of the Shmita. He didn't want to do this, rak asabo nekev. Rather, he wanted to like make a hole. That's the word vayikov et Hashem. That's the pasuk, the word in the Torah. So when he curses, is to make a hole. Is the word, same word for making a hole. Leilech bedilug, so that which represents skipping a level, not respecting the in between of the doorway, but rather just running right through and skipping over it. Is that these bizarre kodesh? Aval shmiya tali behayatar asiya leela v'hu pagum shmiya delay hanu shmiya meire al shmita v'asiya leela hanu yovel. So this is the idea of hearing and of doing. So shmiya depends on that place. Really, to be able to hear depends on this higher place that is called doing. I'm going to explain this little by little. V'hu pagam b'shmiya delay. But this, the cursor, what did he do? he made a blemish in his ability to hear. Right? There's this place that is called doing, that is called connecting, which is the Yovel. But he wasn't able to hear. Hainu Shmiya Morel Shmita, hearing is having to do with the mitzvah of Shemittah, Asiya La'ela, and this high doing, this high connecting, that's called Yovel. She'asiya Moire Shekenhu Bekinyan, Valkenhu Pagam Shmiya Dile. The Hainu Kinaka of Madhava Sasi. He made a hole into that which is meant to be hidden away. He just opened it up. This idea that it's all really God underneath is like a secret. It's a hidden thing. It's a mystery. And you can't just like wear it on your sleeve, right? You can't just have it be revealed in the same way that 2 + 2 = 4. The sense that it's all really Hashem underneath, it takes 50 years, like he was saying before, from age 20 to age 70 in every person's life. It takes time for this to sink in, for the depths of what that really means. To not just be something that you say, something that is like mathematical, something that's an abstract truth that stands outside of experience. Like 2 + 2 = 4 is always true. It stands outside of experience. But the sense that Hashem is behind all of my choices and vivifying everything, and that really it's all God underneath. And this is something that takes, mamish 5 decades to, or 7 groups of 7 years to reach that 50th year. And he wanted to skip and go straight in. He wanted to barrel through instead of the proper way of like knocking on the door, relating to the doorway, and going in a proper way. And similarly, the ears, he's comparing the Shemittah to the concept of hearing, right? We need years and we need ears. The ears are the doorway in. There is also the eyes and the mouth and the nose. We're perceiving things all the time, and with all of those orifices of the head and the sense of touch also. But the ears are kind of unique because they are sequential. It's step by step, little by little, till you develop an understanding of what it is that you're hearing. You're hearing soundbite after soundbite. But the person who cursed, he didn't want to deal with that long process of kind of acquiring wisdom through many, many levels upon levels, years upon years, and having open ears again and again to hear, to kind of contemplate and understand step by step. What was his claim? That perspective that he had could have infected or affect, whatever the word is, it could have put in an improper perspective, an improper kind of worldview to the rest of Am Yisrael. In a way, it was dangerous, the place he was coming from. And he was appealing to the outsider energy within all of us, and how we all just want to solve it and just have it be fixed straight away, and not have to go through the process of free choice and of hearing and of wisdom and of going through experiences and of trying and putting the effort in to having a sense of Hashem in our life. He touched that button for all of us, even though the ones, even everyone else who was sitting in their tribal configurations. He wasn't able to fit into any tribal because he didn't have a father, didn't have a Jewish father. He had an Egyptian father, so he didn't fit officially into any tribe. This is what he was so upset about, and that's why he curses Hashem's name. Because, and it says the Ishbitzer, that act of cursing Hashem's name was not just a rebellion, was not just an anger. It was a desire to burst through all of the years and processes and listenings that a person needs to do in their life, and just get straight to the honey, get straight to the Yovel, get straight to that sense that it's all God anyway. And, he just wanted it immediately. Relates a lot to today's society, the immediate gratification. Maybe we feel that way spiritually. There's a real desire and a real mistake that could be made. And so there was a danger that his perspective of cutting a hole in Hashem's name to get straight to that higher light might have infected and affected all of Am Yisrael. And so therefore it was necessary. That's why right after him, right in the Parsha, just before Parshas Bahar, Parshas Emor, I believe it is, right? Yeah, right at the end of Parshas Emor is this story, and then comes the Mitzvah of Shemitah, because Shemitah is to fix that so that Am Yisrael that the Jewish people will not get affected negatively by that outlook and absorb that outlook. He gave us right after this story of the Makalo, Parshas Shemitah, the Yovel, the Herisoshe, the Emes Hadin Kain, Moshetana Makalo. And he was showing Am Yisrael that what the cursor, what the person who cursed what he wanted, there is such a thing as a Yovel. It just takes time to get there. He's a Yovel. He afal pi shelo shamtu hu Yovel ki Yovel hu mokom asher ein magia shem avodas ha'adam. V'chein yeh le'asid. There will be revealed that place that the cursor wanted to reveal, that place that is above all human effort, that light that is just totally beyond. Just Hashem set up that we should go step by step and miras hayira and simtzum, that person needs to have awe of Hashem and respect and go step by step to be able to reach that height of the Yovel. Gewaldik. Okay, good to see you, Doreen. We just got to the end of this, the Chassidut section. It's all up, by the way. I hope you're able to listen to the recordings. It's all up on YouTube. And Gewalt.
Great.
Okay.
Glad to hear it.
Yes, yeah. If you go to YouTube and you write Yeshivat Simchat Shlomo, or just write Simchat Shlomo Shmitah, Shemittah, Shemittah, then you'll find all the recordings. And if you just go date by date, you can piece it all back together. Okay, so now to spend a teeny bit of time here on the map. We looked at this a little bit yesterday. Where does Shemitah apply, right? So yesterday we talked about the south of Eretz Yisrael, that you see here are the latitudes, or whatever, I think they're called latitude line, 30 degrees above the equator. Pretty much everyone agrees that south of here, the Eida Charedis of Yerushalayim, very strict rabbinic body of the one of the highest rabbinic courts in Yerushalayim, holds that everything below this 30-degree line, 30 degrees above the equator, is not halachically Eretz Yisrael for Shemitah purposes. And this area of the Arava, of the south of Eretz Yisrael, a lot of vegetables and grains are grown there, and so they hold that anything from below here, which includes Grofit, Yotfata, Timna, Eilat, are not subject to the laws of Shemitah at all. What about the other side of the Yarden? So we're just going to look at basically three different areas. The other side of the Jordan, there's immediately the other side of the Jordan, and then there's further out to the east. Immediately over here was originally conquered by the Ole Mitzrayim. Reb Nosson, if you remember, we saw this in the Mishnayos. It was originally conquered by Yehoshua and Moshe Rabbeinu when we first came. Ammon, Moab, and Edom. The land of Sichon and Og were conquered, and then eventually They were conquered by Yeshua, and the tribes of Reuven and Gad and Chatzi Shevet Menashe were immediately over here. Further out was not yet conquered. So Sichon, um, right, the Emori, and I'm forgetting now the nations, right? Ammon, Moab, and Edom were actually not conquered. Those were the three lands that were not conquered. Sorry, that are further out over here. They're not on the map. So in any case, then I don't know if anybody knows the exact area, but the area that is closer to the Jordan on the other side of the Yarden, it does not have the prohibition of sfichim that we learned about yesterday. We do vegetables, legumes, and grains grown right on the other side of the Jordan don't have the prohibition of sfichim, but they everything that grows there does have the holiness of shvis. So that means that things grown in Jordan, again, it's going to come back to this idea of Jewish-owned land versus Gentile-owned land. So Gentile-owned land in Yarden, if we have produce that comes to Eretz Yisrael from there, I'll look into it and see if that's done today. But if there would be Jewish land owned there, it would have the holiness of Shvis. If not, if it's owned by Gentile, it does not have the holiness of Shvis. We're going to talk more about Heter Mechira next week, but we're just getting the sense of the borders. The Gaza Strip and everything here in the white does have the holiness of Shemitah, including the north, the Ramat HaGolan. All of this area is agreed to, yes, have been settled by Ezra in the times of the Second Temple, and thereby does have the holiness of Shemitah. There are certain areas, certain cities within Eretz Yisrael, such as Beit Sha'an, that the Gemara mentions as having been treated not as having the holiness of Shemitah, because when Ezra came in the time of the Second Temple, so it's getting so big. When Ezra came in the time of the Second Temple, he left certain parts of Eretz Yisrael on purpose, unsanctified. And Beit Sha'an, the Talmud says, is one of those places. However, and there is today a city called Beit Sha'an, and there even are ruins that would seem to be the ancient city of Beit Sha'an. However, the Chazon Ish and the modern, all the modern legal decisors have all said that we don't know for sure that it's the same city that the Talmud describes, and basically everything inside Eretz Yisrael today, until that southern area of the 30 degrees, is considered to have the holiness of Shemitah. There are some people who say 31 degrees, which would make the cutoff line a lot higher and would allow for a lot more of this whole southern area to not have the holiness of Shvis. But probably better to be strict and hold that only from the 30 degree area and down, which is the smaller area at the bottom of Eretz Yisrael. In the north, there's another area known as Syria. It corresponds roughly to the country of Syria. This is a whole big area over here that King David conquered. But the way the halachas of Eretz Yisrael works is that you have to first conquer all the 7 nations, the biblical Eretz Yisrael, which is here, and then whatever you expand will then also get the full biblical holiness of Eretz Yisrael. But if you did not fully conquer the original biblical Eretz Yisrael, then if you add land to it, it won't get the biblical holiness of Eretz Yisrael. First, you have to have the main thing, then you could expand on it. And since David HaMelech, King David, expanded the borders of Eretz Yisrael before fully conquering the regular Eretz Yisrael, therefore, that area that is called in the Talmud Syria, which corresponds roughly to the country of Syria, has certain halachas that still apply to this day on a rabbinic level. What is that? So in Syria, what we hold is that the Chachamim decreed, in order to prevent people who are experiencing difficulty keeping Shemitah and didn't want them to travel to Syria and say, well, we'll just go there, but we don't have to keep Shemitah. We were just talking before how difficult it is to keep Shemitah. It's a very big effort to let go, to switch gears from the market, the kind of treating the produce of the land as an object of value and an object of creating parnasa, of making money, to treating it simply as receiving food only directly from Hashem, not using it to make money. This is such a difficult thing for people to do, and there's a danger that people might just move up here for that 7th year and just work the land there, and people might even leave Eretz Yisrael because of how hard it is to keep the laws of Shemitah, and they might just settle up there. And so the sages decreed that that you must keep the laws of Shemitah in Syria. However, they did allow the secondary agricultural activities. That means the steps that happen after you do the reaping. Not allowed to reap in a harvest, the fruits and the grains in a major mass form on Shmita, and so that you're also not allowed to do in Syria. But a secondary, like treading the grapes, threshing, winnowing, heaping the grain, this they did allow. Some say it so that people could still make a parnasa. Others say that it was enough so that people wouldn't leave Eretz Yisrael. The halacha today is that it has kedusha, shvis. Anything that comes from there has the holiness of shvis. If there would be Jews living there owning the land, it would have the holiness of shvis. But there is no prohibition of sfichim, the legumes, grains, and vegetables. That blanket prohibition that the rabbis put on all legumes, grains, and vegetables grown on Shemitah year, which is, like we learned yesterday, is a severe restriction on what we can eat from the produce of Shemitah. And this is this decree the rabbis felt they had to put on because so many people weren't keeping the laws of Shemitah and would say, oh yeah, this grain, this legume, this vegetable, it grew on its own. I didn't have anything to do with it. When really they were working the land and making it grow, planting and so on. And so the rabbis made this huge prohibition. That prohibition only applies inside Eretz Yisrael proper. So Sfichim, the prohibition, is only inside Eretz Yisrael. Holiness of Shemitah applies on the other side of the Jordan and in Syria if those lands were owned by Jews. Since they're owned by Gentiles, basically speaking, it will not have the holiness of Shemitah. We'll learn more about selling land to Gentiles also in Eretz Yisrael proper, which is still widespread practice today. We'll learn about that next week. But now for today, we're going to go back into Shemitah in the kitchen. We began yesterday and talking about what do I do l'maisa when I bring my vegetables and into my kitchen, not vegetables, fruits, right? Like we said, the sfichim are going to be prohibited. Okay, sorry, just get the right page here. So first of all, there is the general overview of what this is. The fruits that we're going to be eating on the Shemitah year have holiness to them, because the pasuk says, the Sabbath of the land will be for you to eat. And Chazal understand for you means that you can make use of these fruits. We're going to learn exactly in what way, but it means that you're not allowed to cause them to be destroyed. You're not allowed to cause them to be wasted or destroyed in any way, as we'll see. And that you're not allowed to change them. And we're going to see what that means, because certain fruits that are always cooked, you are allowed to cook them. Fruits that they're often made into juice, you're allowed to make them into juice, we're going to see. But things that are not usually done, you're not allowed to do. So you can't change the normal usage, as we'll see. Okay. So first of all, there's an argument. Is it actually a mitzvah to eat the fruits of Shemitah? According to Nachmanides, it is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah every time you eat the Shemitah fruits. However, there's no blessing on it, because you don't have to eat it. But if you eat it, you get a mitzvah. It's an interesting category of halacha called a mitzvah kiyumis, a mitzvah that you get if you do it. Similar to wearing a four-cornered garment. If you're wearing a four-cornered garment, you have a mitzvah to put tzitzis on it. But you're not obligated by the Torah to go out and buy a four-cornered garment so that you can then put tzitzis on it. So to here, if you eat the fruits of Shemitah, you get a mitzvah, but you don't have to make a special effort necessarily to eat the fruits of Shemitah. But if you do, you'll get a mitzvah. That's the opinion of the Ramban. But most Rishonim don't hold that way. Most Rishonim hold that even though the fruits have holiness and they're a gift to us from Hashem, but it's not called a mitzvah to eat them. The mitzvah is to treat them with holiness. The mitzvah is not to work the land on Shemitah. Eating them is a heter, is an allowance that Hashem gives these to us, and more than just an allowance, it's a giving to us from Hashem, but not that every time we eat it, it's a mitzvah. So this is an interesting argument between basically Nachmanides and Maimonides. Maimonides and most of the other authorities hold it's not considered a mitzvah when you eat it. And now, so you're not allowed to cause them any kind of a destruction, even in a small way. Whether it's human food or animal food, or whether it's things that are for smell, as we said, that we are strict and treat things that are grown for smell, herbs that are grown for smell, also to have the holiness of Shemitah. So therefore, it's forbidden to throw Shemitah fruits or herbs into the garbage, which is a place that causes them, even though you're finished with eating them, but to put them in the garbage makes them even less edible. They become gross by being put there into a garbage. One is also, we're going to learn in a few minutes what you should do instead of throwing them into regular garbage. One is also forbidden to cause the taste of the fruits to go bad by mixing in. For instance, if you have wine or grape juice that is Shmita grape juice and has the holiness of Shmita, and you want to put in some medicine that's going to make the wine taste bad, not allowed to mix it in. You could take the medicine first and swallow it, and then drink the wine to make it to have a good taste after, as a chaser, shall we say. but you're not allowed to mix it in, because then you're causing the Shmita fruit to taste bad. One is also not allowed to cook fruits of Shemitah that are normally eaten uncooked. If, like, they bring an example of like oranges or avocados. I don't know. Today, it's become normal to cook all kinds of things. I don't know if that has changed or not. If it is normal, if it has gone to a point where it's normal to eat them both raw or cooked, then you're allowed to eat them either way. For Seder night, can you use the wine of Shemitah for the 4 cups? Yes. For Kiddush, and for Havdalah, and for all the cups of bracha, just what? You need to put a plate underneath it so that the wine that overflows will not get lost. And I need to be careful with the leftovers, not to dispose of them in an improper way, as we'll see. So the Havdalah is a whole very interesting thing. Some people put out their Havdalah candle using the Havdalah wine. So this is going to be prohibited on the Shmittah year if you're using Shmittah wine. Some people have a minhag, have the custom to overflow their cup of Havdalah wine and have it spill out onto the floor. This is something that is brought in Shulchan Aruch as a sign of blessing for the home, and that your cup overflows dafka by Havdalah, to have an overflowing cup. And you can't do that with Shemitah wine. You can't cause it to fall on the floor and get gross and unusable in that way. So the poskim say either be careful not to spill it onto the ground, or use grape juice or wine from a previous year, not from a Shemitah year, for Havdalah. Also, at the Seder, there's a minhag to use your finger and take out 10 drops of wine, right, for the 10 plagues. One cannot use the Shemitah wine for that. And so therefore the second cup, even though I said before the 4 cups you could use, but the second cup, you shouldn't use the second cup for the wine of the Seder night. Should not use Shemitah wine for it, because once you take out those drops, the Kabbalistic custom is not to drink them. You're kind of getting rid of them, and they're in a certain way representing the energy of the 10 plagues, and therefore, since it's not going to be used or drunk after, you can't use the Shemitah wine for that purpose. Okay. Okay. What about if it's a hot day? How careful do you have to be about leaving fruits of Shemitah, about not leaving fruits of Shemitah in the sun or in some kind of a hot place, that they might go bad faster because you left them there? Is it considered that I caused it? And this is a matter of dispute. So better to be careful. Try to always store them in the best cool, dark, dry place. What happens if I come home and I want to eat half an apple, and the apple has the holiness of Shvis, and I'm just not hungry for the other half, so I'll keep it. But because I cut the apple in half and I only ate a half, the other half will go bad faster. Right? If it would be still have its skin, that's the amazing blessing of the skin and the rinds of fruit, is that they actually keep it fresh for a long time. Once I cut it in half, I'm limiting its shelf life. So is that considered a problem, to have to eat the whole apple every time? No, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to cut the apple in half and then do your best to keep the half apple good and eat it before it goes bad. You don't have to eat it all in one shot just because you're causing the other half to start to go bad faster. What about little children? Little children, can I give them bananas? By the way, we said vegetables are subject to the laws of sfichim, which is this huge blanket prohibition over grains, vegetables, legumes. What about bananas? So the halacha is that bananas are not considered prohibited on Shmitah. So we can have holy bananas on Shemitah year. But what about I want to give a banana to a little kid? So he's holding Shmitah, a holy banana. Can I give it to him? And probably most of it will go to waste, especially a little, very young kid. They eat a little bit of it, and most of it ends up on his face, on his clothes, on the walls, on the wherever it ends up. What do we do? So you're not allowed to give it to them. You have to find bananas that are from somewhere else, that are either from Chutz La'aretz or from a previous year somehow. I don't know if a previous year exists. But if the child is, that's only if the child cannot eat the majority of the fruit. If the child is capable of eating the majority, even though some will get destroyed or lost, then it's okay to give it to him. However, if you are watching him eat and you see him about to smear some of the banana on the wall, you need to stop him. So in other words, the best thing is, if you really want to be careful, put it on a spoon and try to feed the kid as best you can with as little of it being lost. But if you know that the majority will get eaten, it is mutter to feed it to them. Similarly, we know the Torah says, the verses say that animal food also has the holiness of Shemitah. So say I want to feed an animal some Shemitah food, and I know that the animal leaves some leftovers, and some of it will get destroyed. That's fine. If that's the normal, that's how eating goes. It's normal and it's fine. Okay, let's see if we can do a little bit more. The leftovers. This is the big thing. We can't throw Shemitah fruits in the garbage. What about the leftovers? You ate the first half of the apple, and then later on at night you had the second half, but then there's still that core, and there's a little bit of apple that could still be eaten, but you're not going to eat anymore. What do you do? Asur lekalkalam, you can't cause it to go bad. Rather, it has to be left to rot on its own. And now, so long as a person could eat the little bits of leftover apples, you cannot feed it to your dog. But rather you have to leave it to, as long as it's still fit for a person, just no one's gonna eat it, it has to be left to kind of go bad on its own. So we're going to see tomorrow more in depth about leftovers, because there's different kinds of leftovers. There's pits, there's rinds, there's peels, there's all different kinds of leftover. What happens if I have a cake that I put Shmita wine into and there's some crumbs left over, and so on. We're going to see all these different things, and a lot more specifically about how exactly do we leave the fruits to rot on their own. How much do they have to rot? And at what point am I eventually allowed to, put them in the garbage or put them into a compost? This we'll see Mitzvah tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now it's saving my life.